Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I have a card set featuring the second set from the Nook July release, and this stamp set's called Summer Scoops and features a lot of different summer treats, including some ice creams and some ice pops. Today I'm going to be using both of the ice pops, and I'm going to be doing some ombre stamping. I'm trying a little bit of a different technique where you use the back side of the stamp to do some stamping. And I thought that a fun way to mix it up, as I said before, would be to use the ombre inks. And so here you see some of the choices of the Hero Arts ombre inks that I have. And I decided to do two different color combinations just to show you how quick and easy these cards could come out. I used the pink to red with the mint to green, and on the card that I'll be demonstrating I am going to be showing the butter to orange mixed with the pool to navy. And so you can see here that I have the stamp on my block, but the stamp is actually backwards. The detailed lines of the stamp are facing down, and I am using the back of the stamp to stamp. You can do this with any clear stamp set. And I've seen other people do it before. It's not anything that unique that I completely thought of by myself, but I just thought that it lended itself really nicely to this particular stamp set because you would want to be coloring these a solid color for the ice pops here. So I am trying to clean off this stamp because I used the ombre inks before, and they're similar to the shadow inks, so they do stain your stamps a little bit, and they're a little bit trickier to clean. So what I did was I was stamping it with some Versamark and then stamping it off. I find that the Versamark helps to clean up the image a little bit without layering any additional color on. So it helps you to stamp off some of that old color. And now I'm ready to go with the ombre inks. And you see here that I'm stamping it in the butter to orange. And I'm doing 3 of each, so I have 3 of this wider ice pop here. And as I first stamp it down, it is very splotchy looking, and that's totally normal for ombre inks. And for the shadow inks, it will dry and even out much clearer over time. And so I'm cleaning off this second stamp here so that I can do the pool to navy. And again, I have the detailed part of the stamp facing the block, and I'm using the back of the stamp for stamping. When you use the ombre inks, you want to move your stamp back and forth over the dividing lines between the different pads, because there are 3 separate pads pushed next to each other to create that ombre effect. Jennifer McGuire says it as doing a little cha-cha with the stamps. And so once I have all of the stamping done, I'm ready to move on to the using the front side of the stamp, the more traditional way of stamping it down. And you want to make sure that your inks are completely dry before you move on so you don't smear anything. And the shadow inks do take a little bit of time to dry. I'm going to be doing some clear embossing, and the embossing powder will stick to the ink if it is not completely dry. So I used my powder bag, and then I stamped the stamps down in their traditional way with VersaFine ink, and it will create the effect of black embossing, but I will be using clear embossing powder over it. So I stamped the 3 wider ice pops and then put the embossing powder down, and then I'm stamping the 3 thinner ice pops. And the reason that I stopped and added the embossing powder is just in case it dries a little bit. I want to make sure that it comes out neatly the first time, as I've already invested in the previous stamping stage. So I just think that it's worth it to pause, put the clear embossing powder on, and then move on to the next step. And I'm also going to stamp the sentiment and clear emboss it the same way, just so that it looks consistent. And again, I just use my embossing powder bag to make sure that no stray embossing powder sticks, although it's a little bit less of a concern with the clear embossing, as you won't really notice if a stray powder here or there. I am using my Milwaukee heat gun to emboss, and I make sure that my gun is heated up for about 30 seconds before I bring it to the paper. Now I cut out those panels with stitched rectangle dies from Lawn Fawn, and so I have a little bit of an extra border between those panels and the standard card base, the standard A2, and you've seen me do this several times, but the reason I'm showing it again is that I want to show that it can be done with pretty much any ink. I've done it with Distress inks in the past, I've done it with Copic markers, but it can also be done with these Ombre inks, where I just want to add a little bit of color to the edges so that I can create a custom mat that perfectly coordinates. And so I only want one color on the edge here, and that will do just fine because I'm not going to try to color a large area. So I'm just making sure that as I rub this ink pad onto the edges, I don't go so far in that I'm getting a blend of colors, and I'm just using the very edge of the ink pad and making sure that I get some even coverage. Again, it looks really splotchy and uneven, but it dries more evenly. It's just the way that the shadow inks or the ombre inks work. Now I needed just a little bit of a finishing touch here, and so I decided to add some sequins from My Style Stamps. I'm going to choose sequins that coordinate with the background color, so I chose to use the pink as the matte over on the first card, and then the orange, and so my sequins are also going to match, so that it just leans a little bit more heavy in the color in one direction, or one color. And I'm just using the sequins to fill in the gaps in between the ice pops. And I'm laying down the glue, which is Multimedia Matte from Ranger, with a precision tip so that I can get a really small dot of glue. These sequins from My Style Stamps are super sparkly, and they're cupped sequins, so they don't lay flat on the card. They give it a little bit of added dimension, but the Multimedia Matte holds it on well and they don't come off. And I really love these because of their great price. A whole bag of them is only $1, so as you can see from earlier, I just have every color because why not at that price? And that way you always will have the color that you want to coordinate. And so that's it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafty videos, you can subscribe to my channel. As usual, this is part of the Newton's Nook blog hop for the release, and so you can go to my blog and enter for your chance to win this stamp set by leaving a comment on my blog or the Design Team blogs. And I'll leave a link to the products in the video description below. Thanks for watching. Bye.